Have you ever wondered why this museum is called the Knaut-Rhuland House Museum? I mean, it's kind of a funny name, isn't it? You know, you mash a Knaut, which is a Germanic name, with Rhuland together to make this funny yet intriguing sounding name. Well, the reason why is because it borrows the last names of the two, if you will, first owners of the Knaut-Rhuland House, Benjamin Knaut and Konrad Rhuland. Today in this video, we're going to be talking about Benjamin Knaut, and more specifically, his father and the political power he held for nearly 100 years, and how he was able to build this house. Stay tuned to find out more. Philip Agustus Knaut came to the New World aboard the ship called Canning in 1753. He essentially came to Halifax, stayed there for a couple years, made some acquaintances, got married, and later on moved to Lunenburg, one of the newer colonies being developed in Nova Scotia. And he stayed there for a little bit, and in 1758, the first assembly of the Lunenburg County in most of Nova Scotia was to be created. The way it worked, there were 24 seats across all of Nova Scotia, and 2 of those seats were to represent the town of Lunenburg, the other 2 to represent the Lunenburg County. And Philip Augustus Knaut decided that, you know what, he might just make a good candidate, so he ran for election. So what really helped Philip Augustus Knaut in that election was that he was German. And that was hugely important because the majority of Lunenburg's inhabitants at the time had a German background. They literally came from Germany and could only speak, or they predominantly spoke only German. So having a person who could represent you and literally speak your own language was huge. So even though 60 people were given the right to vote in that assembly, mainly being the men who came on the first ships to Lunenburg in 1753, Philip Knaut basically got most of those votes because he represented these people, right? So he was elected as a representative in the first assembly for a year because the first assembly was very short. However, when there was a re-election in 1759, he was swiftly put right back to office because everybody liked him. And it really goes to show that everybody really did like him because for 23 years, he was elected time and time again. Never once from that one day in 1758 did he not hold a position of political power in Nova Scotia, either representing Lunenburg, the town, or Lunenburg, the county. And the last assembly he ever served in was later named the Long Parliament because it lasted 15 years without any re-elections. And that was between 1770 and 1785, and Philip Augustus Knaut died in service in 1781 from just health issues, I believe. It never specified in our sources, but he died quite suddenly because he had just remarried the month before. However, following that, he did leave a dynasty to last nearly 100 years because if it wasn't his heirs, it was his progenies who literally kept going back into the political business. I mean, his second wife remarried to a person named Dr. John Bowman, who kept going and getting elected in the 1770s and 1780s, and later on it was their sons, cousins, so on and so forth, until they finally, the Knaut dynasty ended in 1853, I believe it was, because nobody went and got a seat in the assemblies anymore. So if you tally it up, all the years that they actually did hold political power, the dynasty itself lasted 100 years, but for 49 of those years, they held an actual seat in assemblies and constitutions of the Nova Scotia area, which goes to show you how impressive Philip Augustus Knaut was, because he contributed about half of those years in his single lifespan. So this has been a brief history about Philip Augustus Knaut and his political power and his political dynasty that he founded single-handedly. Later we will be doing a video about Konrad Rhuland and about how he is one of the ancestors, if you will, of the founding fathers of a famous shipbuilding company of Nova Scotia called Smith and Rhuland Company. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. So in 1758, Philip Augustus Knaut, Benjamin Knaut's father and the father of the first owner of this house, ran to, be elected to assembly in the first assembly of Nova Scotia, and he overwhelmingly won because he was a German